Hey there everybody, this is Lee with Creative Two-Time Mom, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you some of our favorites from that past homeschool year. So welcome back to my channel. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for joining me today, and if you are new to this channel, Creative Two-Time Mom is all about homeschooling, parenthood, and thriving in the day-to-day. We're not a perfect homeschool family, but we are learning and growing every day and excited to share our journey with you. So don't forget to hit that subscription button down below. So today I'm going to be sharing with you some of our favorites from the past homeschool year. This video is in collaboration with some wonderful homeschooling mamas that I hope you will check out all the links down below to their channels. We are collaborating with Diary of a Homeschool Mama, The Simple Rugged Path, The Brave Homeschooling Mama, Bytes of Memory, and Boyboss Mama. So they are some fantastic YouTube homeschool moms. You probably have heard several of those names around here before, so you know the quality of their channels, and I hope you will check out their videos as well. I'm going to link everything down below. Now this past homeschool year, I homeschooled an 8th grader, a 5th grader, and a 2nd grader. So I feel like I kind of have the gamut of different ages and stages, especially with graduating an 8th grader this year. It is just crazy. I can't believe that we are at that point already. And this is one of my favorite videos to film for you guys every year, is just sharing some of our favorites. Some of these are things that I have mentioned in past homeschool favorite videos, but then I realized some of them are things that I haven't even shared with you guys yet. So I'm hoping you will get some new inspiration and some new ideas. And as always, this would not be a Creative Two-Time Mom video without it being really heavy on the book end of things. You guys know I love to read. And one of my favorites from this past homeschool year has been a private, encouraging homeschool mom book. A lot of people will say, how can I get filled up? How can I get ready? Because it is very challenging to be a homeschool mom. Your mom all the time, your teacher all the time, and sometimes it can be hard to turn that off or to balance the two. And one of my favorites from this past year was a very encouraging read, probably the best homeschool mom encouragement read that I have ever read, hands down. And that is a book called Homeschool Bravely. I have been a long time follower of the Unlikely Homeschooler blog, and I knew that this book was coming out. And like I said, hands down, the most encouraging, most filling. I would definitely, had I not been given this book for review, I would have spent money on this book, and I still would spend money on this book. This is one of those books that I would purchase for a friend or purchase for a fellow homeschool mom. She is so good about just speaking right to where your heart is at. This is not so much a how-to as much as it is an encouragement and a blessing and a go for it, you've got this. Here is your challenge, but also here is your strength. And I have a feeling it's going to be one of those books that I pull from probably again and again. I already have it on my to-read list over the summer as sort of preparation for our next homeschool year. So really hands down one of my favorites from the past year. Continuing on in the book theme, we have the book Rascal. This was a book that I read aloud with my 8th grader and my 5th grader, and we did a unit study on this. It's been a book that I've wanted to read for a very long time, and just have never worked it into our curriculum until this past year. I will link below the unit study that we used with it. So good. I cannot tell you. I am a classics girl. I love the classics, and this one was incredible. Just funny enough to keep them engaged, to keep them laughing, to have fun with it, and yet so heartwarming and so true, and such a good glimpse into that World War I time period in American history, and what we were like at that time, what family was like, what society was like. So good, absolutely incredible. The next thing that I want to share with you is we also did a unit study on Sign of the Beaver. And again, this is one that I have had on our radar for a very long time, and I read it with my older two, but my little guy sat in as well. And his insight, I was surprised for a 6-7-year-old, very, very deep insight. This follows the story of a young boy whose father, he and his father go out, they build a cabin, they're starting a homestead, and the father returns to get the rest of the family. Well, he is delayed. So during that time, this young 12-year-old boy is out in the wilderness all by himself, and he befriends a Native American boy. And it's about their adventures together and their understanding of each other's culture. And it's the struggle of just finding your place, and yet these Indians have had their place and they're being pushed off their land. And how do you rectify what you're doing, because there's this friendship that has developed. So good. It was one of those books that I kind of almost wanted to cry at the end when it was over, because it was just absolutely incredible. And to tell you how good it really was, my 8th grader is not a reader. It's not his thing. When this book was over, he wanted to know if there was a sequel because he wanted to read it. And I was like, oh man, I really wish there was. So we will definitely be looking up other books by this author. So I have 2 items that kind of fall along the curriculum category, and the first one is First Language Lessons for the Well-Trained Mind by Jessie Wise. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this before, especially if you're in classical education. And we are eclectic homeschoolers. A lot of times I drive grammar to the point of rod and staff. I really am big on grammar. I feel like it's important for my kids to get that. But when you have a 1st and 2nd grader, rod and staff is a bit harsh. So for my little guy this year, we did the 2nd year of this curriculum. We started it last year. I have a review video that I will link down below that compares both rod and staff and first language lessons. I think I also have a teaching video for first language lessons. And I love, love, love this curriculum. As much as I love rod and staff, I believe in it. I think it's great educational material. For those younger years, this is a favorite. And there's a part of me that's actually kind of sad that this is going away, because the lessons are short, they're to the point, and they're very one-on-one, very relational. I feel like there's lots of good memory work in here, there's lots of good dictation in here, and really good solid grammar at an easy pace. So I'm a little bit sad to see this one go. We have loved this for the past 2 years. The next thing was something that we added into our Shakespeare unit, and it's called Shakespeare Stories for Young Readers. Now, if you didn't know, I did a Shakespeare unit with my 5th and 2nd grader this year, and I was really, really intimidated by it. I know a lot of people will introduce Shakespeare pretty young, but I was afraid they weren't going to get it. It can be complicated, even as an adult, to follow the storyline and everything that's happening. So I was trying to find very kid-friendly resources, and this is something that we picked up on a whim at the school library, and I loved it. It ended up being probably one of my favorites for what we used this year, because it took the play and it paraphrased it into a short story. So because of that, we weren't weeding through so much of the language as much as we were getting the concepts of the story. Now, in the future, I definitely want to go back to the language because I feel like it's so rich and there's so much happening in a Shakespeare play. But for a gentle introduction to the younger grades, this was fantastic, and they understood the story. They understood what was happening. They got a lot of the jokes. We focused really heavily on the comedies and some of the more comedic drama, more so than the history plays, but they followed along really well, and probably better than I did it sometimes. I caught myself every once in a while going, wait a minute, who's this character? And they were able to fill me in. So it was a great resource for the younger years. They're a lot of fun. I would even recommend them for probably early high school if you're trying to find a resource that's going to kind of explain what's happening in the background. Just some fun additional art type things that we added to our curriculum this year. Of course, you know that the Dover coloring books are absolutely fantastic. I try to get these whenever I can to enhance what we're learning. Right here I have the birds one, and I always try to pick up birds in the spring. It's usually something that we add to our morning basket, not necessarily a unit study, but something that we add to our morning basket, and we try to identify and refresh our memory of birds from our area. I also have this one, which is medicinal plants coloring book, and for each of these, we've only worked in each of them a little bit, but for each of the plants in this book, there is lots and lots and lots of information, and that is something that I am trying to slowly step my way into as I am learning as well. Medicinal plants, plants that you can forage, plants, edible plants, and so I love that this one has so much information with it. The birds don't quite have as much information, but they are very, very, very detailed. It gives, you know, the size, the location, that sort of thing. We also have a national parks one, which has some information, not as much as this one, but does give some good explanation of pictures. And so I love these. I feel like these are not so much coloring books as kind of creating your own textbook in a lot of ways. So I think these are really fantastic. Another couple of things, I know I have mentioned these before. It's the 36-piece chalk pastels from Michaels. $5. You can't beat the price. These have lasted and lasted us this year, and we are really enjoying our adventures into pastel drawings. And on that note, we have also been using, I believe it's chalkpastel.com. She has a YouTube channel. She also has a Facebook page where she does free lessons with the kids. We find that her explanation is amazing. She's so patient and so thorough, and gives structure where structure is needed, but also allows choices with colors and that sort of thing with the kids. Our art this year has completely grown, and I'm kind of jealous of how much fun the kids are having. I think I'm going to get myself a set really soon. Now, moving on to games, I just happened to pull this one from our school library. We did a full unit study on Africa last year, just wrapping up our history unit, and we found this game called 10 Days in Africa. It's all focused on the geography, learning where the countries are, learning how to get around the continent. So you have to have some idea, because you have 10 cards in place and you're trying to move from one place to another, hence the name 10 Days in Africa. You're traveling around the continent. I have a full video that goes into more detail about this game. We really love this one. I have tried to get some of the other continents, but they've since been discontinued, and they can be pretty pricey. But if you can get your hands on these games, they are absolutely worth it. They're very high quality, and this is the game that I pull out and all three of my kids get quiet. They all get into what they're doing. Nobody complains that it's too easy or too hard. They all really, really love this one, and so when I need a little peace and quiet, this is the game that comes out. This other game I believe I found from the Waldock Way, and I will link her channel down below. It's a game called Flag Frenzy, and I love this because we have started trying to memorize the flags. We were talking about South America this year. That's our continent that we're focused on. So we have been memorizing flags, and flags to me are just very interesting. They're very representative of the countries that they come from, and so again, you have a full map and you are trying to match the flags quicker. It's sort of like Spot It with flags, if you've ever played Spot It. It's a lot of fun, and this game is much more inexpensive than the Africa game, so definitely check this one out. Well worth it. We worked it into our Christmas budget, and it was a Christmas present this last year. And the last thing I want to share with you is a book called Theology. Now, this has probably been one of the biggest Bible type books that I have seen out there this year. It's got a lot of people talking, and for me, I was looking for something that was going to go a little bit deeper, challenge my kids just a little bit more. All three of my kids have grown up in the church. They kind of feel like they got it all down, they know it all. And I know for me, like, I'm constantly growing. There is constantly theological questions and things that challenge me. So I wanted to just go a little bit deeper with them. And this book is divided into sections about the theology of God, theology of Christ, theology of man. There's so much biblical reference. It's always tied back into what the Bible says. It's not just somebody explaining, but it's always giving a reference for why that is a basis of the faith. We have had a lot of fun going through this one. I don't currently have it because we have been borrowing it from the library and I had to return it, but I can definitely see this being one of the things that I'm going to try to somehow kind of find the money in my budget next year, because it's really good. We've been using it in our morning basket time and it has brought up some incredible conversations with the kids. So that is 10 of our homeschool favorites from the past year. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know which of these you would like to check out or that you have checked out, or one of your favorites from the past homeschool year. I'm always gathering ideas from you guys as well. Don't forget to check out the description box below. It's going to have the links to all the other ladies that are putting up videos like this one today, so that you can get even more ideas for your new homeschool year. Also, there will be some links to some game reviews that I've talked about today, some curriculum reviews that I've talked about today, to go a little bit more in depth in case you're interested. I will also link below several of our other videos of favorites from the past year. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Don't forget to hit that subscription button down below so you can follow along on our journey. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.